Namaste, everyone. Hello, and welcome to your practice. Today is going to be pretty rooted in the Muladhara or the root chakra. And we're going to begin in a seated position with the hands in the lap, one hand in another, and bringing the thumbs to touch. Just taking a moment to roll the shoulders up, back, and down, broaden across the collarbones, and then sink down in the hips. Finding length from the bottoms of the ears to the tops of the shoulders. Allowing the hips to settle. Now this energy center located at the base of the spine is, it governs all that is solid. Your security, grounding, and your sense of self. We want to focus on feeling grounded and stable, even in postures or asana that might not feel super stable. And start to engage through the core, draw the navel towards the spine, and notice how you sit up a little bit taller. Think about pressing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Every inhale, bringing space through the vertebra. Keep breathing just like that. Deep belly breaths. Notice the diaphragm pull down as you inhale, and then pull up as you exhale. And then on your next inhale, reach the arms out to the side and up overhead. Look up towards the thumbs. And then exhale, interlace the fingers and plant them behind the head. Elbows are nice and wide. Allow the head to be heavy in the hands. So you're opening up through the T-spine as you lean back just a little bit. Feeling the hands push into the skull and the skull push into the hands. Then lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling as you peel the chest forward. Find a little bit of an arch to the spine. As you exhale, collapse everything in. Imagine that you could touch your elbows to your shins. Curling up into a little tiny ball. Inhale brings you all the way back up. Find that cow shape with the back, arch through the spine. Exhale, curl up into a little ball. 3 more. Inhale to open and expand. Exhale to collapse inward. Engage through the core, hollow out through the front line of the body. 2 more. Inhale up. Exhale, bring it back. Last time. Inhale up. Exhale, bring it back. Inhale, come all the way back up. Arms reach out to the side and then down by the hips. Just feel a sense of broadness across the chest. And then start to lean back just a little bit. Notice how you roll over your sits bones, the 2 bony landmarks in your pelvis, so your feet get nice and light. Now we're just going to stay here in a cross-legged position. Squeeze the heels towards the glutes. Try to open up through the knees. Lean back a little bit more, maybe float the hands up. So now we're feeling rooted and grounded in the hips. 4, broad across the chest. 3, see if you can squeeze the knees in a little bit closer towards the chest. 2, last one. Exhale, lower everything down. Plant the hands on either side of the hips. Now lean forward like you're trying to do a forward fold. Plant the hands on the ground. And then see if you can press into the ground so much that you feel the back body start to activate. Tuck the chin. Keep this activation. Pull the navel towards the spine. Press into the hands. Maybe lift the hips. Maybe lift the heels. For 5, 4, 3, 2, lower everything back down and just take a moment to fold over the legs. Maybe a little sway from side to side. Then come all the way back up through seated. Notice which way your legs are crossed, right over left or left over right. Just take note of that. And then bring the hands all the way up overhead. Inhale. And as you exhale, float the hands back down alongside the hips. Lean back on the sits bones. Keep your chest over top of your pelvis, same as before. Now this time, uncross the legs, bring the knees to touch, and float the feet out in front of you. Now stay here. Float the hands up. 4 breaths. Gaze towards big toes. 4. Chest right over top of pelvis. 3. Navel towards the spine. Slight tuck to the chin. 2. As you exhale, cross the legs the weird way, the way that might feel a little bit strange. Plant the hands down next to the hips. Lean forward just until your belly is maybe touching the thighs, maybe not. Press the hands into the ground, tuck the chin. As you exhale, press into the hands, lift the hips. Maybe you lift the heels for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower everything back down. Take a little fold. Sway side to side. Breathing in and out of the nose. Inhale to come all the way back up. Reach the arms up. Inhale. Exhale, lower them back down. Inhale to shift back, keep the chest lifted, keep the legs crossed. Exhale as you lift the heels. 4 breaths here, same as we did the first round. Try to catch yourself from falling too far back or too far forward. Squeeze the heels in towards the glutes. Keep trying to open up through the knees, an active hip opener. 2 more breaths. Broaden across the chest, maybe float the hands up. Palms facing the ceiling. 2, really nice long neck. Think about pressing the crown of the head kind of back behind you at a 45. As you exhale, lower the knees as is. Just 2 more rounds of this, kind of, 1.5. Lean forward, plant the hands on the ground. You know where we're going. Keep left leg crossed over right. Press into the hands, lift the hips. Maybe lift the heels for 5, 4, 3, 2. Lower it back down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. No fold this time, just straight into leaning back. This time uncrossing the legs, finding your way into Navasana. Our arms reach forward. You can stay here with the knees bent, or you can start to play with straightening the legs. 4. Gaze to big toes. 3. 2. As you exhale, cross right over left, or whatever way you didn't just have them crossed. Hopefully that's not too confusing. It doesn't matter, the work's the same. Lean forward, keep belly pressing towards the thighs, tuck the chin, press the hands into the ground for the last time, lift the hips, maybe lift the heels for 5, 4, 3, 2, let it go. Cross over the legs and make your way into tabletop. Nice wide hands, wide toes. Take a moment to shift back and forth, opening up the bottoms of the feet and the wrists. Nice, and then finding some stability in the center. Pressing the hands into the ground and the knees. Knees are underneath the hips, shoulders are on top of the wrists. As you inhale, lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, belly drops, pull the chest between the arms. Look up, inhale. Exhale, tuck the tailbone under you, knit the bottom ribs in, push the ground away with the hands, tuck the chin. Then reversing it, inhale, tailbone lifts, slowly articulating your way into cow pose. Exhale, rounding and rolling, tucking the chin at the very last moment. 2 more. Inhale, belly drops, widen across the sits bones, pull the chest between the arms, look up. Exhale, tuck and roll. Last time. Inhale, tailbone lifts, belly drops, pull the chest between the arms, look up. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, round and roll. Now come back through center and just walk the hands a little bit farther forward beyond the shoulders. Now shift the weight forward more into the hands, so you're shifting more forward towards the front of your mat. You're in more of a half push-up position. Now lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, belly drops. It's a little bit of a smaller movement. Use the core. As you exhale, bend the elbows and see if you can just hover the chin. We're going to stay here for 3. Hover the chest. Try not to let it touch the, well, it might touch the ground, but it's just kissing the ground. 1 more. As you inhale, sweep the chest between the arms. Find your cobra, thighs off the ground or on the ground for now. Think about rolling the inner thighs up towards the ceiling, broadening across the chest. Next time you exhale, tuck the chin, shift your weight back into a little bit more of a narrower child's pose. We're not really looking for length here. Like we would usually go for this really long, expressive child's pose, but you're going to find it's a little bit more shortened. So you're pressing back and you're opening up through the bottoms of the feet. Now drop the head. See if you can tap the forehead towards the ground. So you're in a little bit of a shorter child's pose. You're tucking the chin. You're feeling a little bit of an opening through the shoulders. As you inhale, roll your way back up. Go just beyond shoulders, just beyond the wrists. Now lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, just a little bit, belly drops. As you exhale, keep the elbows close as you tap the chin down to the ground. 3 breaths. Making this as hard or less hard as you want by changing how much you hover. The closer you are to the ground, the easier it will be. The more you hover, the harder it will be. 1 more breath. Engage through the core. Keep engaging through the core as you inhale. Sweep the chest between the arms. Find a cobra, thighs on the ground, sorry. Inner thighs are spiraling up towards the ceiling. Press the tops of the feet into the ground. Broaden across the collarbones. Keep the hands where they are. Exhale, tuck the toes. Shift the weight back to your active child's pose. A little bit shorter in stance. Toes are still tucked under. Try to reach the crown of the head down towards the ground. 1 more breath here. Inhale to roll your way through center. Shoulders move past the wrists. Slightly lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Drop the belly, but keep the core engaged. Elbows tight as you lower the chin towards the ground. Pause. 3, shoulders away from the ears. 2, engage through the core. 1, inhale, pull the chest between the arms. Find your cobra, triceps may be on fire. Exhale, take it back to your child's pose. Kiss the crown of the head towards the ground. Keep the toes tucked under you and the hands firmly planted on the ground. The next time we shift forward, it's going to be straight into plank. Take 1 more Take 1 more breath here. And the next time you inhale, fire your way through plank, engaging through the core, knees lift away from the ground. Gaze is about 6 inches in front of the fingertips. 4. Drop the bum a little bit. 3, keep pressing the hands into the ground, back of the heart reaches up towards the ceiling. 2. 1, shift a little bit further forward. Lower all the way down onto the belly. Whew. Keep the hands where they are. Untuck the toes. As you inhale, use the core to only peel the chest away from the ground. Look forward. Squeeze the elbows together back behind you. Hands are rowing backwards as if you could propel yourself forward. They drag the mat backwards in space. Inner thighs reaching up towards the ceiling, spiraling towards each other. Fire up through the hands. On your next inhale, pull the chest between the arms. Find your upward facing dog. Thighs lift away from the ground. As you exhale, tuck the chin, roll back, downward facing dog. Now in your down dog, think about pressing your hands into the mat. So much so that you can press your chest back further or closer towards your thighs. The weight is equally distributed between hands and feet. One doesn't have more weight than the other. Typically, we dump a lot of weight into the hands. If that's the case, try to bend into the knees a little bit more and shift the weight back into the legs. One more breath here. Now uproot the heels. Take a slow tiptoe forward, nice and slow, until you're in your Uttanasana forward fold. Take a half lift at the top of your mat. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Weight is mostly in the toes. The inner thighs are spiraling towards each other. Take a really deep bend in the knees until your thighs are about parallel to the ground. And as you inhale, slow roll to your Utkatasana chair pose. Arms reach up overhead. Now your palms don't have to touch, but I would prefer straight arms because your arms are really an addition to the waist in this posture. So think about straight arms, whether they're in a T shape, doesn't matter, or if the palms are touching, doesn't matter. You have nice straight arms. The shoulders are coming up towards the ears. You're sinking the weight back into the heels a little bit more. The toes can wiggle free from the ground. And then tuck the tailbone under you for one more breath in. Use the exhale to come all the way to stand. Inhale, sink back into your chair. Arms reach up overhead. Exhale, plant the hands on the ground about shoulder width distance apart. Come up high onto the toes. Keep your knees bent. And just place them to the back of the triceps. We're not quite going into crow here, or crane, but we're just seeing how this feels. Now take a little shift of the weight into the hands, and then back into the feet, and then back into the hands. We're just warming up the wrists, back into the feet. Now for 2 more breaths, maybe engage the core a little bit more, pressing the back of the heart up towards the ceiling. There's a lot of work that can be had here, rather than just stepping right into crane. One more breath in. As you exhale, step back to plank. Now lower down on the knees, so in your half plank shape. Lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, drop the belly. Take a slight shift forward, and then lower the chin towards the ground. 3 breaths, same as before. 3. However much you hover, the harder it will be. 2. 1 more, engage the core. 1, as you inhale, sweep the chest forward, find your cobra. Then exhale, tuck the chin, tuck the toes, press the hips back, find downward facing dog. Shake out the head a little bit. Yes and no. And really root down through the feet and the hands. That's going to be your root here. As you inhale, imagine the breath coming from the fingertips, pulling it up towards the hips. As you exhale, send the exhale into the heels. Seeing if you can root down a little bit more. And then uproot the heels. Take a little tiptoe forward. We're still warming up. See how long you can keep your hands planted on the ground. Inhale to find a half lift. Exhale to fold. 1 breath here. Inner thighs are spiraling towards each other. Deep bend in the knees, thighs are parallel to the ground. As you inhale, roll up. Arms reach overhead, find your chair pose. Once again, weight is evenly distributed between pinky, big toe, and heel. But the tendency here is to drop the weight forward. So just try to shift the weight back a little bit. Tuck the tailbone under you a little bit. Find nice straight arms and imagine your fingertips are an extension of your waist. Maybe look up towards the ceiling. 1 more breath in. 1 more breath out. Tuck the tailbone, 1 more breath in. Exhale, come to stand, Tadasana. Inhale, sweep it back into chair. Exhale, take a fold forward. Plant the hands just underneath the shoulders. Come up high onto the toes, and then drop the knees behind the triceps. Then shift the weight forward into the hands. Hollow out the front line of the body. Maybe this time you shift the weight in and out of the toes. Even if you can go straight into crow from here, or crane, We're going to just take a few shifts. Just warming up the wrists, warming up the core. One more breath. Maybe the toes don't lift at all. It's all perfect, and it's where you're supposed to be. Now step back to plank in. Drop the knees, exhale. Inhale, shift forward, find a small arch to the back. Exhale, drop the chin down towards the ground, pause, 3 breaths. 2 more. Squeeze the elbows towards each other, 1 more in. See if you can hover a little bit more, 1 more out. Inhale, pull the chest between the arms, cobra. Exhale, tuck the toes, tuck the chin, send the hips back and high, downward facing dog. Tapping into that breath again. As you inhale, draw the air in through the palms. As you exhale, exhale through the soles of your feet. Shift the weight back a little bit into the legs. 2 more rounds, slowly working our way to crow. We're doing it nice and slowly. Shaking the head out, yes and no. And then uproot the heels, step, hopper, jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, find a half lift. Exhale, fold in. See if you can see your belly button, weight mostly in the toes. Deep bend in the knees, roll up, find your chair pose. Nice and slow. And then really root down through the right foot. Tuck the tailbone under you. See if you can sink down just a little bit deeper. Reach the fingertips up a little bit more. Now as you do this, see if you can draw the left heel towards the left sits bone, or the left hip, left bum. Staying here. 3, 2, last breath in. Exhale, come to stand, bring the left leg with you. Just squeeze it in towards the chest. Feel rooted through all 3 points of contact in your right foot. Drop the left hip down a little bit. Shoulders away from the ears. Giving yourself a nice big squeeze. Now see if you can take this leg and straighten it to any degree. Finding your staff pose, hands come to the hips. 3, 2, last breath in. Exhale, lower the left leg down. Inhale, sweep the arms up and high. Find your Utkatasana chair pose. Exhale, lean forward with the chest, plant the hands underneath the shoulders. Second last time we work our way into crane. You're going to try to keep the arms as straight as you can. You can either stay here, you can practice shifting in and out of the feet, or you can lift the feet away from the ground. 2 more breaths. Hollow out the front line of the body. Draw the knees up towards the armpits. Last breath in. Exhale, step back to plank. Lower the knees. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, tap the chin. Just allow it to hover. 3, 2, there's a lot of strength to be had in more static postures. 1 more. Engage through the core, navel to spine. Inhale, pull the chest between the arms. Find up dog or cobra. Maybe you lift the thighs away from the ground this time. As you exhale, tuck the chin, roll back, downward facing dog. Shake the head, yes and no. Inner thighs rolling towards each other. Pressing the weight back into the feet. Maybe shifting the hips from side to side. 1 more breath. Now uproot the heels, step, hop, or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale to fold deeply. Weight mostly in the toes. Maybe you can look up and spot your belly button. Sink the hips down low. As you inhale, roll up to your Utkatasana chair pose. Arms nice and long. Somewhere along this plane here. It doesn't have to be touching. They can be anywhere. They're just straight. Tuck the tailbone under you. Weight a little bit shift more into the heels. Firm up through the left foot this time. See if you can draw the right heel towards the right glute. 3, 2, One, inhale, come all the way up, take the right leg with you. Then exhale, interlace the hands on the shin. See if you can drop the right hip down a little bit. Little bend to the left knee. Keep drawing the right knee up as you drop the right hip down. Squeezing the heel in towards the glutes. Broaden across the collarbones. One more. Now point the toe if it's not already. Then nice and slow begin to extend the leg to any degree. It can be bent this much, or it can be straight. 3. 2, try not to fall back with the chest, but try to keep yourself upright. When we're in, exhale to let it go. Roll out the wrists a little bit for our last little play around with crow. Inhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. Sweep the arms up. Exhale, lower the hands down about shoulder width distance. Come up high onto the toes. Last time, place the knees just beside or behind, onto the triceps. And then practice shifting the weight in and out of the hands. If you want a little bit more, you can lift the feet up. If you want a little bit more, you can practice tapping the toes towards the wrists and then squeezing back up. 2 more times. Option to tap the toes, squeeze back up. Option to tap the toes, squeeze back up. Step back to your plank. In breath. Exhale, lower the knees. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, tap the chin. 3, 2. Engage the core. 1, inhale, sweep the chest between the arms. Lift the thighs away from the ground. Tuck the chin a little bit first, and then lift it up towards the ceiling. Exhale, tuck the chin all the way. Shift the weight back. Downward facing dog or child's pose. 4 breaths. 4. 3. 2, start to make your way back to down dog if you're not there already. And then draw the big toes to touch. As you inhale, send the right foot back and high for a 3-legged dog. Stay here. Keep the hips level and the right toe is pointing down towards the ground. Tendency here is to open the hip, but keep it closed. What we're working now is the right glute and the right hamstring. See if you can pull navel to spine. Press the hands into the ground so much so that the shoulders come up towards the ears. See if you can kick up a little higher. 1 more breath. Now point the right toe, open the hip, and see if you can get a little bit more height as you slightly thrust the hips towards the right hand side. Stack the right hip on top of the left and squeeze the glutes. 3. Find your 3 points of contact, push them into the ground. 2. As you exhale, close off the hips. Chamber the heel towards the glutes. Uproot the left heel, shift forward, roll. Press the hands into the ground, knee to nose. 3. 2. See if you can squeeze the right heel up a little bit closer. Last one, drive the knee forward a little bit more. As you exhale, make space in the shoulders as you lower down the right foot. Now firm up between the feet. Nice and slow, begin to roll up, find your high lunge. Arms reach up overhead. Sink down a little bit deeper. Arms are an extension of the waist. Find that slow, calm, steady breath. 4. Press into the outer edge of the right foot, equally to the inner edge. Drive down through the heel. 3. Stay even through the pinky toe edge and big toe mound of the back foot. 2. 1, nice and slow. Peel the arms open, the back foot pivots. Make your way into warrior 2. Now again, you're driving through the outer blade edges of both feet, shoulders away from the ears. Arms are tired, legs are tired. This back arm has a tendency to drop down. Just keep that in mind as you reach the fingertips away from each other. The crown of the head reaches up slightly with every inhale. With every exhale, you sink a bit deeper. Just 2 more. Soften the jaw on the sides of the neck. 1 more. Sink down a little bit deeper. Press into the outer edge of the right foot. As you inhale, begin to straighten into the right leg. Turn all 10 toes towards the long edge of the mat. Hands catch the waist. Inhale. As you exhale, lead with the chest as you fold forward. Hands find the ground. Find a half lift. In breath. Exhale, walk the hands back so the fingertips are in line with the toes. Curl in. Find your wide-legged forward fold. Now here, think about finding length through the crown of the head. Think less about curling in, like, oh, I want to find depth. Think more like, I want to find length. See how long you can make the distance between your tailbone, which is reaching up towards the ceiling, and the crown of the head, which is trying to root down. Now press through the outer edges of both your feet. And use your hands with your fingertips pointing forward. Use your biceps to draw you closer towards the ground. Engage through the core. Put a little bit more weight in the toes. Counterbalance with the core. 1 more breath. Now inhale, find a halfway lift. As you exhale, pivot so the heels face inwards. Bend the knees. Stay here. Tuck the tailbone under you a little bit. A slight thrust of the hips forward. Keep the knees peeling away from each other. Roll up. Find your goddess. Arms reach out to the side. And then interlace the fingers so they're behind the head. Same as what we did way at the beginning. Just keep the head pressing into the hands pressing into the head. Tuck the tailbone under you a little bit. Elbows reaching away from each other. Legs on fire. Pressing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. 2 more. One more. Now release the hands out to the side, big wide T. Inhale, reach them up towards the ceiling. Keep low in the feet as you start to pivot towards the front of your mat. Find your high lunge. Inhale. Exhale, cartwheel the arms down towards the inside of the right foot. Heel toe the right foot so it's to the outside of the right hand. And then drop down on the back knee. Whew, a little bit of relief. Keep pressing down through all 3 points of contact on the right foot. Now we root down through the back knee. Keep driving the knee down. Gently pulling it forward in space without it actually moving. 2 more breaths. Keep sinking the hips forward and down, tucking the tailbone under you. 1 more. And then fire up on the back knee. Inhale. Exhale, keep the hands on the ground as you draw left knee to left tricep before stepping the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Sink the hips down low. Find Malasana Yogi Squat. Hands pressed together at heart center, drawing the thumbs towards the sternum. Knees press into triceps, triceps into knees, crown of the head high. You can definitely stay here. Actually, yeah, you can definitely stay here. If you want a little bit more, you can start to lift the hips a little bit, just enough so you can plant the hands behind the heels. Now, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to stay here, resting the inner thighs on the triceps or the tops of the arms. And we're just working here. Our end goal eventually, next up, you stay here. Next up, I'll show you our end goal will be to cross at the ankles, bend the elbows, shift the weight into the hands, maybe lift the feet away from the ground. But for now, all you're gonna do is focusing on this opening. It's a big wrist movement. So just focus on opening up through the wrists and the hips. And then release, sinking back down into Malasana, pressing the thumbs in towards the sternum. Tented fingertips find the mat. Inhale, find a halfway lift, send the hips high. Toes face forward. Exhale to fold down. Stay here, crown of the head heavy. Maybe a little bit of a sway. Noticing the difference between the legs. One more breath. Inhale to find a half lift. Exhale to fold. Deep bend in the knees, root to rise. Come all the way to stand. Arms reach out to the side and up overhead. Exhale, just the arms. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, hinge at the waist, forward fold, wide-legged-ish. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step, hop, or jump. If you're jumping, catch yourself in chaturanga. Otherwise, we meet in chaturanga. Upward facing dog in. Exhale, downward facing dog. Big toes come to touch. This time, firming up through the left leg. The right leg is so tired. Begin to kick the left leg back behind you for a three-legged dog. Hips are even, 4 breaths. Now, when you're here, think about dropping the left hip down. The squeeze is coming from the glutes and the hamstrings. Think about engaging through the core, pressing the chest back towards the standing leg. Think about gently drawing the right foot forward in space, even though it doesn't actually move. Keep breathing. Firm up through the hands. Engage through the core. One more breath in. As you exhale, point the left toe open through the hips so you can get a little bit more height. Thrusting the hips towards the left-hand side a little bit. Stack the left hip on top of the right. Try to peek underneath the right armpit just to level off the shoulders. Stay for a breath in. As you exhale, level off the hips, bend at the knee, shift forward, try to tap knee to nose, 3 breaths. 3, drive the knee a little bit farther forward. Maybe the toes tap, that's fine. 2, squeeze the heel in towards the glutes as best as you can. As you exhale, step the foot between the hands, slow rise up, find your high lunge, 4 breaths. Hands and fingertips are an extension of the sides of the waist. See if you can engage so much that the shoulders lift up towards the ears. As that happens on the inhale, see if you can sink deeper on the exhale. Press through the outer edge equally to the inner on the left foot, driving down especially with the heel. On the back foot, you're pressing into the pinky toe mound equally as the big toe mound. 2 more. Relax the jaw, last in breath. Fill the belly as you exhale, pivot to your warrior 2. Use this as an opportunity to release some of the tension in the shoulders. Finding the gaze just beyond the middle finger, left-hand side. Pressing into the outer edge of both feet evenly. Feeling the opening in the right hip. Slight mini tuck of the tailbone. Pressing outer edge of the left foot. 2 more. Trying to keep the arms nice and strong. Stay for an in-breath. Stay for the exhale. As you inhale, straighten through the left leg. Turn all 10 toes to face the long edge of the mat. As you exhale, hands to hips, shift forward as you make your way into forward fold. So at this point, your toes are facing towards each other. You're pressing it through the outer edges of the feet. Inhale to find a half lift briefly. Then exhale, walk the hands back so the fingertips are in line with the toes. Use the biceps to pull yourself deeper. Crown of the head is reaching down towards the mat. Your tailbone is lifting up towards the ceiling, kind of like cow pose. A little arch to the back. Shift your weight more into the toes. Use the core to counterbalance. 3. 2. 1. Inhale to find a half lift. Exhale, pivot so the heels face in. Drop down. Find a little bit of a goddess, but stay with all your limbs connected for now. And then press through the outer edges of your feet as you slow roll up to goddess. Arms reach out to the side and up overhead. Interlace the hands behind the head. Slight thrust of the hips forward. Elbows wide. Maybe your thumbs trail down the sides of your neck just for support. I know the legs are on fire, but try to tap into the breath. 2 more. One more. Reach the arms out to the side on the exhale. Inhale to sweep them up overhead. Stay low in the feet as you turn to face the front of your mat. Left leg forward, right leg back. As you exhale, lead with the chest as you plant the hands to the inside of the left leg. Heel to the left foot so it's to the outside of the hand. Drop down on the right knee. Now we're still thinking about driving down with the left heel. Pressing into the outer edge of the left foot. Sinking the hips forward and down. Pulling the chest forward in space. 3 more. Nice, calm, slow breathing. Energetically dragging the right knee forward in space. It's not going to move. It's just going to help you pin the left hip back. 1 more. Now, if you're not there already, fire up through the back knee. As you exhale, step the right foot to the outside of the right hand and then sink down in the hips. Find Malasana. Man, my left hip is on fire. Now, a little bit of playtime. Now, you can definitely stay here in your Malasana. If you want to work your firefly pose a little bit, or your firefly pose variation, you can start to lift the hips, walk the hands backwards, so they're kind of fingertips in line with or just behind my heels. And you can start to sink the hips down, bend the elbows a little bit, and just begin to shift the weight back into the heels of the hands. Just because it's a very big hip opener and a very big wrist opener, this is where I would go if you're working on the mobility and the wrist strength. And now, if you want to play with it for the next 4 breaths, you can start to wiggle the feet towards each other. Keep the elbows bent, cross at the ankles, and maybe you can lift the feet up. 4, 3, and so a little variation. You're using your arms more like a shelf, but don't dump into the wrist. Keep lifting up. Use the core. 2. If you're up, just begin to heel toe your feet back. Maybe you fall down. Maybe you land your weight into Malasana. And then just find a halfway lift, tented fingertips. Inhale. Exhale, fold down, clasp opposite elbows and take a little sway back and forth. This time thinking about using your elbows or your arms as an extension of the neck. One more. Now inhale to find a half lift. Exhale to sink all the way down onto the bum. Legs extend out in front of you. Give them a little shake. Then plant the hands next to the hips. Flex the toes back towards the face. Fire in first through the legs so much that the heels lift. And then keep this activation in the legs. Squeeze the feet towards each other. Again, keep this activation. See if you can lower the heels. So you have a lot of activation going through the legs, but you're simultaneously driving down with the heels. Lift up with the chest. Plant the hands on the ground. Tuck the chin. Stack the head on top of the shoulders. Shoulders on top of the hips. And hold for 1 breath in. 1 breath out. Lift up a little bit more. 1 breath in. Then exhale, let it go. Take a more restorative forward fold over the legs. Maybe you grab onto the outer edges of the feet. Maybe you grab onto the shins. Peace fingers to big toes. Doesn't matter. Just take your fold. 3 more. Keep engaging through the core, navel to spine. Use the core to compress a little bit deeper. Lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, small arch to the low back. Engage through the quads, feel the kneecaps lift. Calm, slow, steady breaths. 1 more. Inhale to find a half lift. Stay for the exhale. Inhale to come all the way up to seated. Plant the feet on the ground. Reach the arms forward in front of you and take a little lean back about 20 degrees. Kind of scooping in through the belly this time. And then lower down another 20 degrees. Pause. Whoa, it's sticky. Then another 20. Whoa, feel the shakes. Another 20. And then lowering all the way down. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Take a little rock and roll side to side. Then lower the left leg down, but keep the right knee in towards the chest. Take the blade edge of the right foot and place it to the left thigh. So you're in figure 4. You can stay here and you can also use your hand to just gently press the right knee forward and down, but keep in mind you want to keep the hips level. When you do this, it typically torques your left or your right hip along with it, but keep that stable as you gently push. If you want a little bit more, you can draw the left knee in towards the chest. 3 breaths. One more. Then nice and slow, lower the left foot back down. Uncross the right leg. Give your legs a big squeeze. 1 more time, rock and roll. Then keep the left leg in place. This time the right knee lowers towards the ground. Blade edge of left foot finds right thigh. And again, actually, while you're here, try not to sickle the foot. So don't let your foot collapse in. Keep it nice and strong. So this way your knee is stacked on top of your ankle and your ankle doesn't go all wonky. You can stay here. Gentle guidance of the knee forward and down, but keep the left hip in place. If you want more, you can always interlace the hands towards the back of the right thigh. One more breath. Then nice and slow, uncross the legs, scoop the knees in towards the chest, little side to side rock. Then when you're ready, start to lower the feet down and then shimmy the heels towards the front of the mat as you land in your Shavasana, your final resting shape. And as you lay in your Shavasana, see if you can make the hips a little bit heavier. Allowing that heaviness to translate down into the legs. Feel the heaviness in your shoulders. And allow that heaviness to translate down into the arms. When you inhale, imagine you pulling the breath all the way from the soles of the feet, up the legs, up the torso, all the way to the crown of your head. As you exhale, move that air all the way back down. As you imagine this breath, notice how your diaphragm moves opposite. As you breathe in, you pull the air from the bottoms of the feet. The diaphragm pulls down. As you exhale, the air goes from the crown of the head back down to the soles of the feet, and the diaphragm pulls up. Or maybe if you want this breath that you're focusing on, maybe you give it a color, and maybe that color is a fiery red. Imagine a red wave-like breath coursing through your body. Nourishing your muscles and your cells. Two more breaths here. And you're more than welcome to stay in your Shavasana. If you're ready to close out, you can bring some movement into your fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, your head. And slowly make your way to a seated position on your mat. Connecting your hands in the same way they were connected as we began. And wherever you are, whether you're laying down or you're seated, take a big in-breath through the nose. Hold it through the top. Take in a little bit more. And then make it really long as you exhale. Hold at the bottom. Inhale. Hold at the top. Inhale a little bit more. Exhale through the mouth long. And return to your normal breathing. Thank you so much for joining me today with this practice, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.